They said if you said his name 5 times in the mirror, he would appear. But what no one told you was what he'd take when he did. Candyman 1992 isn't just another horror film with a hook-handed killer. It's a cinematic curse disguised as folklore, laced with real blood, real bees, and a truth far more terrifying than fiction. Behind the honey-slicked myth lies a story soaked in urban trauma, race, class, and a quiet war between the seen and the ignored. Filmed in the heart of one of… Fact number 1. The bees were real, so was the fear. Tony Todd didn't just act brave, he earned every sting. The iconic scene where bees swarm from Candyman's mouth wasn't CGI, it was real. To film it, over 200,000 live bees were bred specifically for the shoot, selected because they were just 3 hours old enough to fly but too young to sting. Even so, Todd had to wear a dental dam to keep them from crawling down his throat. Still, 23 stings.
Fact number 2. Cabrini-Green wasn't a set. It was a warning. The grim apartment complex in Candyman isn't a backlot. It's Cabrini-Green, a real housing project in Chicago, infamous for gang violence and systemic neglect. When the crew arrived to scout locations, they had to negotiate with local gang leaders for permission to film. They were told plainly, "This is our turf." During production, a bullet was fired into the van of one of the…
Fact number 3. Candyman's legend was born from real urban nightmares. Clive Barker may have created the original short story, but the myth of Candyman was rooted in a very real, very gruesome case. In 1987, a woman named Ruthie Mae McCoy was murdered in her Chicago apartment by someone who climbed in through the bathroom mirror. Yes, through the mirror. The killer accessed her unit via the medicine cabinet, which backed against an empty adjoining apartment. Ruthie had called 911 saying someone was coming through the walls. She was a…
Fact number 4. The mirror wasn't a prop. It was a gateway. In Candyman, mirrors aren't just symbolic, they're literal thresholds. That unnerving feeling you get while watching Helen chant Candyman into her reflection, it's not accidental. Director Bernard Rose designed the mirror scenes to evoke ancient ritual. The frame wasn't just framing Helen, it was framing you, the viewer, as a participant. Lighting was engineered so that every reflection would seem too sharp, too bright, as if reality itself was cracking. But here's the Fact number 5. Virginia Madsen was hypnotized on set. Virginia Madsen's dazed, glassy-eyed expression in some of the film's most disturbing scenes wasn't acting. She was hypnotized. To give her performance an ethereal detachment, particularly during scenes where she's entranced by Candyman, director Bernard Rose worked with an on-set hypnotist. Madsen was reportedly given a trigger word before each take, dropping her into a trance-like state on cue. While the technique was effective, it quickly became risky. Madsen began to feel out of control and emotional.
Fact number 6. The score was written like a church mass. The soundtrack to Candyman doesn't sound like typical horror. That's because it wasn't written like one. Composer Philip Glass, known for avant-garde minimalism, approached the film like a sacred ritual. He wrote a choral suite titled Helen's Theme, layering organ drones and Gregorian-style chants. It was meant to feel eternal, like something echoing through cathedral walls. Glass later admitted,
Fact number 7. Tony Todd modeled Candyman after Shakespeare and Dracula. Candyman doesn't snarl, he doesn't scream, he whispers. Tony Todd didn't want his killer to be just another slasher villain. Instead, he based Candyman's presence on tragic romantic figures, part Dracula, part Othello. He studied the cadence of Shakespearean dialogue and the calm menace of Bela Lugosi's performance. His line delivery, slow and almost seductive, was intentionally.
Fact number 8. The hook was real, and it drew blood. Tony Todd didn't just wear a prop hook. He wore an actual metal hook sharpened for visual accuracy. During fight scenes, especially the prison cell sequence, the hook came dangerously close to the actors. At one point, while filming a struggle with Virginia Madsen, Tony accidentally scraped her arm, drawing blood. Production halted temporarily.
Fact 9. The film almost had a white lead actress, until it didn't. Originally, the studio didn't want Virginia Madsen. They wanted a bigger, safer name, someone bankable, someone white enough to not make the interracial subtext feel controversial. Director Bernard Rose pushed back. Madsen had depth, vulnerability, and a willingness to take risks, something he felt was vital for the film's moral ambiguity. There was also a more personal reason. Madsen was dating the film's.
Fact number 10. The Candyman origin story was invented on the spot. In Clive Barker's original short story, The Forbidden, Candyman wasn't black, didn't have bees, and had no tragic love story. He was an abstract figure, a pale, ghostly myth. The film changed everything. Director Bernard Rose wanted to anchor Candyman in American racial history. So, during production, the character's backstory, a black artist brutally murdered for loving a white woman, was created almost improvised. It wasn't part of the early script.
Fact number 11. Candyman only appears in 6 minutes of the film. For all his looming presence, Candyman is rarely seen. In fact, Tony Todd's character only has around 6 minutes of actual screen time across the entire film. And yet his presence is everywhere, in mirrors, in whispers, in blood-slicked graffiti. His mythology fills the spaces, even when he doesn't. It's a technique borrowed from.
The film's production design used actual graffiti from Cabrini-Green, but they didn't stop there. Some of the film's most iconic images, like the mouth-shaped tunnel Helen crawls through, were painted directly onto real, abandoned housing walls. After filming ended, many of these murals were left untouched. Local residents began referring to them as movie scars, visual evidence of Hollywood's brief and. Fact number 4. The mirror wasn't a prop. It was a gateway. In Candyman, mirrors aren't just symbolic, they're literal thresholds. That unnerving feeling you get while watching Helen chant Candyman into her reflection, it's not accidental. Director Bernard Rose designed the mirror scenes to evoke ancient ritual. The frame wasn't just framing Helen, it was framing you, the viewer, as a participant. Lighting was engineered so that every reflection would seem too sharp, too bright, as if reality itself was cracking. But here's the
Fact number 14. The line, "Be my victim," wasn't in the script. It's the most chilling line in the film. Be my victim. 4 simple words. Seductive. Inevitable. But it wasn't written that way. On set, Bernard Rose and Tony Todd experimented with different phrasing. Come to me. Accept your fate. None of them landed. During one rehearsal, Todd whispered the line. Fact number 15. A real-life murder was blamed on the film. In 1992, shortly after Candyman was released, a disturbing incident occurred in Chicago. A young man was found murdered in a housing project bathroom, stabbed multiple times. Witnesses claimed he had said Candyman in the mirror before it happened. The media jumped. Headlines blamed the movie, saying it was encouraging dangerous rituals among youth. Urban legend and panic. Fact number 16. Candyman's lair was designed like a church. Deep within the ruins of Cabrini-Green, Helen discovers Candyman's lair. It's not just a hideout, it's a shrine. And that wasn't accidental. The production design team built the lair to resemble a cathedral of pain. Candyman's image is painted like religious iconography. Candles are placed in ceremonial patterns. The centerpiece, a mural depicting his brutal death, surrounded by bees, painted in gold like a saint. Set decorated.
The burning finale almost went horribly wrong. The film's climactic bonfire scene wasn't just intense, it was dangerous. The crew built a massive multi-story pyre out of wood pallets and scrap from actual housing demolition. Virginia Madsen was placed inside a hidden tunnel within the pile, while real fire was set on the outer structure. The blaze burned hot.
The film was meant to be a trilogy, but not like you think. Before sequels were even greenlit, Bernard Rose had a trilogy in mind, but it wasn't about Candyman. It was about myth-making itself. In his original vision, each film would explore a different urban legend in a different city with no direct continuity, just the shared DNA of fear, belief, and violence.
The film's ending was originally much darker. In the final cut, Helen is reborn in fire, transfigured, martyred, and returned as an avenging spirit. But the original ending? Far more bleak. Early drafts had Helen die in the fire and stay dead. No resurrection, no supernatural twist, just a woman consumed by obsession, abandoned by reason, and sacrificed to a myth she couldn't disprove.
Fact 13. The studio tried to tone it down and failed. When executives at TriStar saw the early cuts of Candyman, they panicked. The film was darker, more racially charged, and far more psychologically disturbing than they expected. Multiple notes came in: make it less political, reduce the interracial tension, tone down the blood. Bernard Rose nodded, pretended to adjust, and kept filming exactly as intended. He understood something the studio didn't. The horror didn't come from gore. It came from...
Bonus fact: Candyman wasn't the monster. He was the warning. It's easy to watch Candyman and focus on the hook, the bees, the blood. But beneath the surface, something quieter lingers, a truth most viewers never name. Candyman doesn't create violence. He marks where it already lives. He haunts Cabrini-Green not because he's drawn to poverty, but because society abandoned it. He doesn't kill to spread terror. He kills to remind the world that forgetting has a price. Every scream in the film echoes with systemic silence. Housing segregation.
If one of these facts made you look twice into the mirror, let us know. Which detail stuck with you? Which one did you wish you hadn't learned? Drop your thoughts in the comments and tell us what film you want us to dissect next. Like,